spinoff of Sophia the First, Elena of Avalor, not Elena. What sort of idiot would pronounce it Elena when it's clearly, obviously, Elena? Like Elena, where Elena, by the way, free Elena did Elena's giving Elena, actually Elena's cousin, Elena. I don't know what your guys' problem is, I'm just here trying to watch some Elena of Avalor over here. Elena of Avalor is a series created by Craig Gerber, same guy who did Sophia the First, shocker, airing on Disney Channel and then eventually moved to Disney. Big deal because this is Disney's first Latina princess. I'm sorry, Asha from Wish. I may be pronouncing your name wrong too. Maybe my ears just deceive me all the time. But sorry, Asha from Wish, you were not the first. Regardless of how hard Disney tried gaslighting us into thinking that you were the first Latina princess. It was actually Elena. Oh no, we said Afro-Latina. I don't care. Make a good movie next time, and then maybe I'll give a shit. I know distinctions like this are important, but it's only important if people bothered to go see your movie. You're cool, Mirabel. You're fine. You're still not the first Latina princess. You're not even a princess, actually. But you're still cool. Your movie was awesome. I know I covered this movie in my review of Sophia the First, but I gotta do it again since this is technically the first episode. Not episode 1. They like having a movie special be the first, episode. We see Elena coming home after 41 years of being stuck in a magic amulet. Let's do a flashback.
The truth is, I would still be trapped in that amulet today if it wasn't for a brave young princess named Sophia.
Hey, I know Sophia. So there's this gilf named Shariki that did some bad magic stuff, but turns out it was all a magic vision. Now we're in a different show. This is Sophia. If you don't know who Sophia is, I don't know what to tell you. I did a whole video on this one. Sophia, being 40 years in the future after the events of Shariki doing evil bad magic stuff, gets a special old guy to tell her about what happened in Avalor. On her 15th birthday, she got the Amulet of Avalor, which isn't important. Shariki attacked because that's just what bad bitches do sometimes, and the magic amulet did the good old switcheroo by putting Elena into the amulet to save her. And this old book dude brought the amulet to Sophia so that Sophia could do some cool hero stuff. Now Sophia needs to go to Avalor and do some protagonist stuff and save Elena so she can have her own show. Sophia's real magic power is being able to convince her parents to do whatever she—
Centuries ago. It's a little busy, if you ask me.
Oh, let me guess. You like the clean look, don't you? Well, she may be rich, powerful, and pretty, but none of those account for taste.
And this is my throne room. I spend most of my time here.
Oh, you mean like a ruler? Like what you're supposed to do? Because that's your job? Yeah, these are Jacquins. They'll be important now, all right? Right now, actually. Sophia asks them, specifically the orange plucky one, to bring her to the Book Wizard's house. The Book Wizard being Alakazar. I realized I never actually said his name.
What do you mean?
She outlawed music.
I guess she's just not a fan of Disney Junior shows. Not liking musicals? Now that's how you know someone is evil. Sophia gets to the house, and Mateo, Alakazar's grandson, is practicing magic illegally, and brings Sophia to a hidden room underground to help her out. Does Sophia's parents know where she is? I don't think they do.
We're going to summon my grandpa's Chanul, a spirit animal. It's like a guide to all the magical stuff in the world that we can't see.
Oh, we have those here too. We just call them demons and burn people if they summon them, though. The Chanul, a lot easier than we thought it would be. Magic ritual time on ancient statues with impeccable build quality. Like, seriously, how do these ancient ruins stay not so ruined? And, oh look, it worked. Elena is freed. Time for revenge.
You've already risked so much for me. This is something I have to do alone.
Yeah, time for Elena to be the main character.
We've got to help her. Let's go.
Yeah, it's not her show yet. You're still the protagonist. Turns out her parents are stuck inside an object also. Seems to be a family tradition.
And speaking of family, you haven't said hello to your cousin, Esteban. You may still be 16, but Esteban grew up.
Shariki, use bitch slap. Wow, it was super effective. I can't get over how she just completely threw away the element of surprise. Oh, sorry, everyone. Aw, man. It's my vaping habit calling again to interrupt my life. If only I had a non-addictive alternative that could satisfy the feeling when I'm trying to quit. Gasp! Is that Fume, the naturally flavored air device that doesn't require battery?
Mind me.
Fumes flavored air isn't like for when you order the Journey Pack. You might even win Fume's limited edition gold-plated device. You can click the link below or use the QR code on screen now.
But Elena's your cousin, Esteban. And her grandparents raised me like a son. And I think about what happened to them every day. So I do not need you to remind me, Armando.
Turns out Mateo's mom has the spell that can get Elena's parents out of the painting. They sneak in from magic objects as a family tradition. Nothing unites the people more than a common enemy, and I guess having a hope for the return of the princess too. But like, come on, how come there's only 3 guards? Like, is that really all she's got? How did you take over the kingdom if Shariki has like 3 spells? Is she really all that powerful? Clearly not when Esteban can just grab the wand out of her hand, and breaking it means she's got no powers whatsoever. And the lesson here is the real power is the mobs of angry villagers we made along the way. Oh no, she went from being a gilf to just a guh. She may look like she's next to death, but that doesn't mean she's dead yet. Now a 16-year-old is queen. I mean, a princess ruler, because she's not as marketable as a queen. More TV shows should have movie pilots. You know? Elena, Sophia, Rapunzel, that was another one for Tangled. Yeah, we had a lot of good shows coming out of Disney Channel around this time, you know? Or Disney, I guess. Just, wow. But that's not the end of Elena's story. I mean, just look at the play bar below me. There's still a lot of time in this video. But frankly, this really felt like Sophia's movie way more than Elena's movie. Wait, I mean, it should be since it's a spin-off of Sophia the First, but when it's also the pilot for Elena's series, it should be, I feel like it should be 50-50, and it really didn't feel like 50-50. But they did do a great job at establishing Elena and all the main characters. Most of the main characters. Okay, like 2 of the main characters. So in my book, mission successful. What's hilarious to me is that they summarize the events of the movie, but cut out Sophia. Everything Sophia did is just not present. They frame it as if Elena did everything, which I guess I understand. They would prefer just to progress the plot. Well, Elena can see him because now she's magical because of amulet plot reasons. She was seeping in magical juice for so long. It's always easier to sell a kid's show if there's a lovable or obnoxious animal companion.
She'll be queen.
You're not becoming queen tonight. Discovered that you are too young to become queen.
Technically, you're still 16.
Oh my goodness! A government with a brain? I wonder what that's like. Oh no, a tall, handsome royal guard, and she's a teenager, which is prime romantic tension age for kids. Hey, remember that girl that Elena was talking to in the intro of the movie? This is how they met. Naomi is the daughter of a ship trader, and Isabel, Elena's sister, kind of went missing on a stolen ship. Great way for them to become fast friends, and Mateo is now essentially Cedric from Sophia the First, except he's not fake evil. He's not even real evil. He's just a goofball for the main trio. Elena appoints her royal council and gets a fancy scepter that glows for some reason.
It's never glowed like that before.
Ah, jeez. They just can't stay away from writing and magical artifacts, can they?
I thought King Toshi was coming tomorrow.
Oh, he left a day early. I wanted Elena to be unprepared for King Toshi's visit, so I could show off my expertise. He will entrust me to make the trade agreement, and it will be clear to everyone who is the real power behind the throne.
Wait, what? Esteban is the bad guy? Really? I thought he was a changed man. I, being the idiot that I am, actually believed him when he talked about how much he values and misses his family. Whatever happened to Familia? You know, that thing they always talk about in literally every single, show/movie that heavily focuses on Latin cultures. Like, why is that? How important is, like, it's like the most important thing ever. Like, I feel like this is changing Esteban's character. Back on track. I feel like this is changing Esteban's character. Isabel, on the other hand, is more of a secondary character that's just cool. She's an inventor super genius, mostly used for the sake of teaching Elena a lesson about family. This show incorporates magical creatures far more than Sophia the First. I mean, it's the forefront of a lot of episodes, and I love it. I feel like Sophia the First was lacking in this front, and when it was incorporated, it almost...
Got2b Beach Mud Pasta za fleksibilna i dolgotrajna frizura. Od brenda Got2b.
shoehorned or, was a second thought.
I have a pretty good idea why Taroka's so angry.
Then I'm coming with you.
You are?
Because you're my best friend.
You've been friends for 3 episodes. Either a lot of time has passed, or you don't have a lot of friends. Of course, we incorporate the Fountain of Youth. I'd be shocked if we... Wow, he's like Latino Gaston. And thank goodness Esteban isn't entirely a bad guy. I'm starting to get Uncharted vibes from this episode. Man, I miss those games.
Are you sure?
One who can be the royal wizard. I love how they approach Mateo and Elena. Both are young, too young, and are learning to fit into their role, except Elena has the spunk and chutzpah to tackle her problems, while Mateo kind of has imposter syndrome and lacks the self-confidence. So, they have the same problem, but with different mentalities when approaching it. Ah, of course. There has to be another evil sorcerer. When are we gonna bring back Shariki? Here we see an episode where Mateo has to be in the limelight.
My mom told me the story. Fierro was in line to become royal.
Novella for kids. After solving a bunch of riddles, they uncover Alakazar's Wizard Workshop, one of many, actually, and there's the Codex Maru with level 20 spells. This episode is really just giving Mateo an ego boost that's sorely needed. Gabe, being a massive jerk, keeps belittling him, but when he knows he needs to set aside his doubt and do something, he shows everyone that he can actually get the job done. And through improbable odds, he manages to defeat the Malvago. Because this isn't about memorization, but implementation. Recognize himself as the royal wizard. Elena was like a testing ground for Disney to see if diversification could be profitable, because Elena came out on Disney Channel, because a lot of people tend to think of it as a show or movie doesn't have a white lead character, that it'll perform poorly because white people are the majority in America, when that just isn't all that true anymore. It's slowly becoming like closer to 50-50 white to non-white as time goes on. And Elena really proved that not only does having someone of color or someone from a different cultural background is important for kids to feel seen, but is also just a smart move business-wise, since America specifically isn't so predominantly white anymore, or the scales have been tipped enough that we need to reframe how we approach movies and TV. And Elena proved to Disney that it was the right move to diversify their stories and take inspiration from different cultures, some of them being more successful than others. You still have the problem of needing the art to truly be art and not just be cherry-picking different aspects of what they think will be profitable, but that's a problem in every movie. I hear a lot of people talk about how they're making movies diverse just because they think it'll sell, when really it doesn't matter who the lead is or like what culture it's really pulling from. What matters is that it's a good story and not a cash grab. We live in a time where we've become very New is also another one. Animation proving that it can be massively successful if they treat it as an art form, but for some reason producers and suits can't see it as anything other than that one thing for kids. Media is very much controlled by a business mindset now, and not an artistic mindset. And these people that run these big media businesses need to understand that it'll be really profitable if it's truly a work of art. Elena's lessons largely focus on accountability. A ruler being in a great position to deliver these kinds of lessons, and it feels so much more mature than Sophia the First. I understand why they felt it was appropriate to put this on Disney Channel. It still has the setup of a formulaic kid show, but it brings more real conflict that is applicable at any age, and for that, this is a show that is very impressive.
No. You are doing it all wrong.
You heard what Professor Mendoza said?
Yes, but I took an archaeology class as part of my royal training.
We're really delivering lessons about, 1, classism. Esteban thinks he's better than Naomi because he's a royal and doesn't trust her to do the job right. And 2, workplace disparity between men and women. How often women need to prove themselves more than men just because they're a woman. It's not always obvious, but there's often a lot of subtext in this show, and it's still somehow appropriate for kids. Esteban altogether is just a vessel for, I don't want to say toxic masculinity because I feel like that's overused, but I think this is a quite literal use of the word. You very often get to a point where he's not really trying to do anything evil, but he's just so wrapped up in needing to feed his own ego that he's not willing to take responsibility for his actions. Like, he just can't look in a mirror and realize he's the problem. And he specifically can't see he's the problem because he's so desperately trying to maintain his own mental image of himself. The image of a competent and helpful man. And the moment that fails for him, he feels so much cognitive dissonance that he'll deflect fault onto someone else. Well, it can't be my fault because I am a competent man. If something went wrong, it had to be the fault of someone else. Probably Naomi, since she's not a man and also poor and also dumb. Some of these episodes are crazy. Or maybe I'm just project. As a kid, it doesn't really teach your kids how to read. It teaches them how to connect with another person through a common interest. It stimulates their imagination while also normalizing reading and learning. When you take a second to look at what they're showing you and not just what they're telling you, you find that there's lessons beneath the lessons. Did I just describe media literacy? Is that all I did? I don't think I actually described anything unique or profound.
And this is what we get for following her.
You were the one who let the first duende out, you ignored Naomi at the park, and you sprung the trap too early.
I guess you were never royally trained in listening.
They have an episode where all these rulers do whatever this one king says just because he has so much money and he can get away with it by being a massive jerk, just because everyone around him wants a piece of his pie.
That's what I thought until he gave me a private island. That's what you get when you follow King Hector's lead.
Which can easily be connected to the super rich refusing to actually help out people since they're so wrapped up in their social circles and feeding off each other, they forget what's actually important. Like, no wonder able to break from the cyclical mindset because she's young and is still actively affected by the disparities these people create. Like, if you ask an adult if schools should be invested in, they might argue no, when you should really be asking children if schools should be invested in because they experience the problems on a day-to-day basis. And Elena understands this concept to a T. Hey, remember that fancy scepter? Yeah, it's magic. We're now tying in the fact that Elena, who was soaking in magic juice while in the amulet, is giving her magic powers and allowing her to utilize ancient magical artifacts that people didn't know was magical.
Magical objects?
Really?
Mateo says that it used to be called the Scepter of Light, able to control the seen and unseen with words turned to spells. And just like a good magic system, there's a cost to using the spells. Using too much scepter magic makes you weak and tired, which explains why spiritual and magic creatures are so prevalent in this show, since the scepter's magic is directly tied to spiritual magic, sending them back to the spirit world. One thing I can't decide how I feel on this show is how they incorporate the history and cultural traditions, specifically sacrificed Kalima style to the gods, and it's not usually a massive aspect to the story. It's like there's an episode that features it, and then it's forgotten, which I'm glad they're incorporating it, but it feels like it's there, but separate, which is my problem with it. It doesn't feel like it's just like a normal thing that they talk or interact with on a daily basis. It's like, oh yeah, it's time to have that one episode where we have that one part of our culture, when it should be just like an ever-present part of their life. I mean, it's not bad, since the setting and food and all those other parts of culture are intertwined into everything they do, but it feels like there's that last 10% that they just aren't reaching. They do the tried and true smart choice of having an episode dedicated to each character. First, Mateo and his imposter syndrome, Naomi dealing with toxic masculinity, now Gabe dealing with a dad he can never seem to make happy. And here I thought Gabe was just some jock that was going to be shoehorned love interest. He's actually a character? I am shocked. I threw him under the bus before I could even...
I joined the team for you, Papa, but I love guarding the kingdom. That's who I am.
And then his dad didn't hear a word Gabe said and continues to insist that he's right and Gabe is wrong, just like a good dad. The Jacquins have their own place in society rather than just being a magical talking animal. They're actually supposed to be defenders of the kingdom, slowly building up the lore of their society. That makes it feel more like a real world. The longer the show goes on, the more it feels like a well character. They introduced him in a manner to where he can just be comedy relief or be a part of the main crew, and so far, he's mostly just been used as transportation since he can fly. He's been very underwhelming.
It's about time you knew the truth about your dear cousin Esteban. He made a secret deal with Shuriki to help her invade Avalor. He betrayed your family.
Oh, we're doing this now? Oh, okay then.
I know Victor was just lying to distract us.
But I do feel bad for serving Shuriki all those years.
You had no choice.
And we're done. Wow, is that really the end of this story arc? Okay. If you're on shrooms right now, you either want to look away or pay attention because we're gonna see the spirit world, and it's nothing but colors and a big tree that is the entirety of the spirit world. I can already tell they looked up blacklight tapestries on Amazon for inspiration for this episode. I hope you guys aren't experiencing ego death right now, or maybe I do hope so. People use this stuff for different reasons. That being said, this is actually a great time to point out that a good indicator of a show's production value is actually the backgrounds. Every setting that you see has to be created, which costs time and money. If you notice, Sofia the First budget slowly increased after Season 1. Season 1 reused a lot of the same settings. Season 1 of Elena has a lot of different settings, which only tells me that Disney threw a lot of money at this from the get-go. The tail end of Season 1 starts really focus on going to different realms. The Jacquins get another moment where Elena goes to their realm to vouch for Skylar's brother, and I appreciate how everything here is really just mishmashed animals like the Jacquins and brightly colored patterns. It's giving Avatar Spirit Realm vibes. You can really tell they're trying to add just a smidge of visual inspiration to everything new that they're doing. And the settings just keep getting more full, lush, and visually gorgeous that it really makes this show a gem among Disney Channel shows. And here's the king of Jacquins, Skylar's dad.
Ah, welcome to Viestria, princess.
Oh, thank you.
Now you must go.
The Jacquin, specifically the king, is very stern when it comes to rules, and the reasoning isn't just because of him being a jerk of a dad. It's because they're still the protectors of Avalor, and they want to make sure their duties are upheld. And they failed to defend Avalor from Shiriki, and that wound is still fresh in their minds. The fact that their personality traits have some reasoning to back it up is actually somewhat rare in kids' shows. It's that layer of depth to the characters that makes them make sense. It's one of those things that you could easily chalk up to, yeah, well, they're just like that, because some people really are just bridges between them so that them and the humans work together. A lot like the Avatar. Huh. Also, Elena can create illusions as she slowly learns to use her scepter.
I had a feeling it would. Something is coming for you, princess. A darkness rising out of the shadows. And if you do not pass this test, you will never be crowned Queen of Avalor.
You did well, Victor.
Thank you, Shoriki, my old friend.
Oh yeah, I forgot about her. We're putting the Ilf back in Gilf.
Come on, we'll all do it together.
Already a better premise than the Minecraft movie. Season 1 ends with a bunch of nothing important, actually. This show doesn't do the thing where the beginning and the end of the seasons have major story beats, no big twists, or anything that leads into the second season, which makes me believe that this show was greenlit multiple seasons in advance due to the success of Sofia the First, so they wrote the show with that in mind. I'm shocked at this show's quality. I was expecting it to be on par with Sofia the First, but this is better than most Disney Channel shows. If this keeps going, I might put this like on the same pedestal as like Tangled the series. Oh, how wrong I was. Shiriki is now operating in the shadows as Elena's primary enemy, but she doesn't have all her powers back, and her lackeys are doing her bidding until they bring her something that will allow her to fight Elena again. While trying to stop Shiriki's lackeys from finding more magical artifacts, Elena meets the ghost of a Maruvian.
You can see ghosts? Yes, but only on Dia de los Muertos.
I was the last royal wizard of Maru, and it was I who made that scepter.
She defends the Jewel of Maru, the most powerful force against darkness, so powerful that it all successfully steal away the jewel. But we got some cool lore of the world's ancient people. It'd be nice if the villain could get a few wins to tease the audience, but, you know, this isn't bad either. During a festival when everyone is distracted, Shiriki and her lackeys actually manage to free the Malvago, break into the castle, and steal the royal jewel from the previous queen's crown. Now Shiriki has the power she needs to make a comeback. And this time, her wand is even cooler and shinier. And Fiyero the Malvago steals secret blank pages from Mateo's Codex Maru. Didn't take long? Really? Okay. Now we have another secret evil mission. Whatever these pages lead to should be powerful enough to defeat Elena and her scepter. This season heavily, basically exclusively talking about Jacquins and their culture now that Shiriki is back and they need the Jacquins' help to track her down. We even get into stories of Elena transforming into a Jacquin to catch a traitor that's trying to overthrow the leader of the Protectors. I mean, I guess it'd be weird if they made all those assets and never use them again, and another villain on top of Shiriki will keep things spicy. Also, Elena...
That's it. The rest of the page was ripped out.
That's why Fiyero stole the pages.
My grandfather discovered the secret chapter in the Codex, but wanted to make sure the Scepter of Night didn't fall into the wrong hands.
The season now focuses on solving the riddles left by Alcazar to find the 3 pieces of the Scepter of Night before Shiriki can. Mateo being incredibly obsessive about finding the scepter to follow in his arc, having flashbacks of when Shiriki basically ruined her life, and is now horrified at the idea of that happening again, making her decisions rash and pushing herself to the limit, which also leaves her friends in danger, so the villains take the opportunity to prey on Elena's weaknesses in order to weaken... Listen. This advice is great, and I try to apply it in everyday life that I live, however many of those days I have. But you know what annoys me to no end? Every time I think of this advice, every time I do, I hear Kylo Ren screaming in my mind, "No, you're still holding on! Let go!" With that being said, if you've made it this far in the video, let me know in the comments below. Their only hope now is for Elena to learn and master the powers of her own scepter to wizard duel Shiriki. Training montage! You know, where is Sophia? We know they both exist in the same world, and now we're redoing a similar story with overlap since them coexisting is canon, but they treat them like they're 2 different worlds. It's a little weird. We thought we'd be running right toward the big cool battle, but nope. We're going to spend the rest of the season intermixing Shiriki trying to get Elena alone and take her out the easy way. And to help with this ordeal, nothing is easier to unite the people than a common enemy. I guess you could say we're really rocking the boat with this new alliance. What's actually shocking about this development is that they actually managed to defeat Fiyero again, turning him to stone for a second time. But given that Shiriki freed him before, who knows how long this is gonna last. Probably the rest of the series, actually. Finally getting the up isn't important for very long. Don't worry about him. Did I mention Shiriki never comes back? Then that's the end of Shiriki. That's it. That's all of it. Yeah, Shiriki's now out of the show. She's not the big bad guy, apparently. I know. I'm upset as well. Now we completely pivot focus on the treaty between the Sirenas and humans, and how there's political tension from years of conflict and an attempt to sabotage the treaty. This is all so sudden and strange. Is this we're getting about the shape-shifting evil dolphins? At least we're portraying dolphins accurately. I don't know who their PR manager is for dolphins, but they managed to make some awful creatures seem adorable and sweet, which gets resolved almost immediately because dolphins don't like loud sounds, and then the treaty gets signed and we're all good. Don't get me wrong. Great lesson about change only being made by both parties willing to bury the past and look toward a better future. It just feels wedged in awkwardly into the season. They have so many episodes around Dia de los Muertos because that's the only day Elena can see ghosts, you know, like other ghosts that we've canonically gone forward maybe 3 or 4 years over the course of a season and a half because of how many episodes around Dia de los Muertos we've had, which it doesn't really, you know, make anything paced strangely, but knowing how many years have passed, Elena should be closer to 20 years old now, but she hasn't changed at all.
What? Attack her?
We turn ourselves in. Ask for forgiveness. Tell her we've changed.
I can think of so many characters this would work on. Like, just so many. And they're pretending to get along for their child, and they not even going to try and bring Shiriki back. Was that really how they finished her off? We're just dissolving all the villains now. The direction is so weird for season 2. We don't have the villain anymore. So what's even the point of watching the show?
Why are you punishing me?
Because I didn't get to see my little girl grow up. You took that from me.
This is a new level of stupid. It's not like it's his fault she grew up. This feels so forced.
You could have come home anytime. They spoke of the great test you must pass to become the Queen of Avalor. Facing Shiriki was not your big test.
Leo and Esteban.
I am Ash.
My mama.
And my wife.
Naomi gets the prisoners free. Victor is captured, or it can suck it all up, and then they all stop the evil Malvago lackeys, except for Ash and her daughter, who escape. And that's the end of season 2. Can we have Shiriki back? Can we have an actual villain back?
Ash. She's the most powerful wizard I've ever seen.
Is she really? Have we seen proof of that? Season 2 feels weird, and I'm not some big grand finale, maybe, please, hopefully, that isn't, you know, gonna disappoint me a lot. Ash is not an impressive or compelling character. The entire villain group is slowly being captured and falling apart. I get how that would punch. I wanted a big final standoff with all the villains in one big, you know, we're gonna win this one in one big swoop because it's satisfying, and that's why everyone does it, because the alternative is boring, and that doesn't make for a good show. It feels like the villains are just scrambling to do something villainous, and the good guys are winning because the villains are bad at being bad. I'm crossing my fingers that this is just an awkward middle phase for what we will no doubt have a big payoff in Season 3. I'm also wondering if they're, like, the transition from Disney Channel to Disney Junior. This show went from Disney Channel to Disney Junior. Why is that? Is that a reason why, like, did it lose budget because of that? And they already, like, walked in with, like, a massive budget? Or was it, I don't know how the contract works. I don't know how this sort of thing works.
You guys are always going off on adventures without me. I want to be on the team.
Great, this is just what Isabelle's character needs. And not at all what the show needs. We don't need more heroes. Ash is now working on making her daughter a proper Malvago, bringing her to Ash's evil master, and they're trying to get Tamburitas so that they can do their evil plans, whatever plan that may be. It'd be nice if we felt like the villains had direction, but I can wait, I guess.
What's Takaina?
Takaina, the source of all Maruvian magic.
I really hope this is actually where the show goes and not just one episode. They keep referencing the Maruvians and have done nothing with them. I'm legitimately interested in ancient lost civilization tropes. I feel like I'm being teased in a bad way. You know what this group was missing? The obnoxiously smart character that fixes everything with thinking and math instead of really doing that much. Now, even though I hate this in this trope, Isabelle is the least offensive version of this trope. They actually instill like actual math and physics on what she's doing, and since she's a kid, it makes sense that she doesn't have the same physical prowess as everyone else in like 2 episodes after this. Elena finally gets her scepter back. Carla tries to save her father on her own and gets locked up. Now Ash is on her own. Ash finds Takaina. Elena has her staff so she can scry on her and knows where she is. And they pretty easily defeat and capture her. She feels less like a princess with a grand destiny and more like a police officer capturing villains. Also, Elena falls into a magic well and is supercharged with magic even more, and she can bounce spells by unmarketable llama creatures and destroy astrological models when she's being teased. Basically, any word that she says has a magic spell behind it, and she doesn't even need her scepter. It's like she is the scepter now.
Your emotions are making magic.
Ah, so she's a
That's it.
No! Yes, and then we can rule Avalor together. Shuriki.
I thought we knew this. I thought we cleared the air about this a while ago. Is this really that surprising? Did you somehow not connect the dots that were right in front of you? What?
You betrayed us.
No, but let me explain.
Yeah, he made that pretty clear before. Now, you see, the misogynistic comments about how women shouldn't be in positions of power because they're quote-unquote too emotional would definitely apply to a teenager whose magic is directly tied to her emotions.
So I propose that this council sentence you to exile. You will be expelled from Avalor and sent far away to live out your days in isolation on Soledad Island.
Anyway, Esteban breaks out of prison and escapes.
Let us out of here, and I can give you the kind of power that would never put you at your family's mercy again.
Aw, man. Okay, I don't care about Esteban getting a redemption. He deserves to rot on a deserted island. You're just an idiot at this point. They successfully escape, and the dad is trying to tell Ash that they want to be a family and evil plans are kind of stupid now, so she turns him to stone, and Carla is upset and refuses to go with her mom because she's, like, actually evil. Esteban, on the other hand, goes with Ash because what else is he gonna do? Are we just gonna redo the plot of the movie where Esteban betrays Ash like she did, like how Esteban betrayed Shuriki, and then that's it? And they're just gonna accept the reformation of Esteban when it's literally just like the exact same thing that happened previously that got us to accept him for, you know, that got us to accept him in the first place. I don't see a good way for a redemption for Esteban that will make sense and be satisfying to the audience. Ash goes back to the well, but Elena's emotion powers keeps them from getting that magic juice, and then she accidentally drops Esteban in the well. Now, you see, this would be awesome if they were trying to make him a compelling villain. Ash, on the other hand, just can't catch a break. Elena seals the entrance to the well, but Esteban can teleport, so does this actually help anyone? Now we're focusing on Elena, going through all the complicated emotions of betrayal, coupled with basically having the magic of a god. Like, she can dream things and bring them to life if she feels strong enough.
Concerned? You are no longer familia.
All you need to know is I am ready to put the past behind me.
Let go! Good. Good, yes, excellent villain arcs for people that were pretty much already villains. Just make him a real villain. Make him a real honest villain. Come on. Listen, I'm very torn on the whole emotion powers thing. Like, we taught people, kids, how to communicate our emotions. And when we communicate them, we are more akin to getting them under control and having power over them. Very important lesson. A very important lesson that more adults need to learn. That being, mostly very angry and temperamental guys, there's a few of you I've encountered. Some of you need therapy. And like, she was able to process her emotions in a very healthy way in order to get control over them, instead of shoving them down and ignoring them and brooding like a childish dark knight who thinks that not feeling emotions is the same as controlling them. Don't get me wrong, great lesson. What are we gonna do about the godlike powers that she currently has? Did you guys think of that? Are we gonna touch on that a little bit more? I'm guessing, I'm hypothesizing, hoping even, that this is leading toward Esteban and Elena both having emotion-based powers, but because Elena, you know, processed her emotions, while Esteban is ignoring them, she's going to win because she has more control over her powers, and Esteban just loses control. That would be an ending I wouldn't be too upset with. It feels like a little bit of a cop-out, and not at all tied to anything that's been happening in this series whatsoever thus far, but, you know, I'll take it if I have to. The direction of this show feels like how the villains have been acting this entire time. It feels like the writers have been scrambling for something good. Also, everyone else, and I mean, like, literally everyone else, stayed the same.
What you really need right now is a master wizard. Avalor used to have one. My grandfather.
He's inside that magical book, remember?
Oh, so you guys finally remembered that this is technically a spin-off. I've been waiting for you to reference Sophia the First forever now. Why didn't you guys think of this forever ago? The book just gets shipped to them, like, immediately. Overseas. Yeah, sure, that makes sense. And now Alakazar is here.
What's happening to your book?
The spell I cast to transform myself into a book was not powerful enough to last forever.
Oh, come on! It's okay, they do some magic stuff and bring Alakazar back to human form. And then they get ambushed. Alakazar uses his body to defend Elena. Elena gets her scepter stolen, and they run away. What's the point of having a master wizard if he's an idiot that won't use magic? Are you serious? He's dying? We wasted this whole episode for nothing? The moment you give me hope, you squash it while laughing at my pain. And then Elena gets the scepter back. Do you feel like your time was wasted? I feel like my time was wasted. Nothing progressed, nothing at all. We just got the feeling of progression for like a moment. Okay, there's a bunch of new random information. There's this mysterious, powerful, Maruvian-winged person that was locked up and is now not locked up and just so happens to be someone that Ash is looking for, and she'll help them. Somehow, Naomi has an old childhood friend, and they open a time capsule, and Naomi feels bad because her only dream was to own and captain a ship, and that hasn't happened. All the while, her friend is doing everything she ever wanted. Ash finds Winged Power Girl, and Ash also apparently has the Winged Girl's special fancy headgear that will make Winged Girl super powerful, so now they team up. Naomi decides to leave the team because she's actually pursuing her old dreams. I don't see why she couldn't do this after they stop Ash, but okay, I guess.
Explore the world. Blaze my own trail. And now that I'm grown up, I still want all that.
Hanukkah was mentioned. not important, but I really like to see Hanukkah mentioned because I don't see it that often in cartoons, so I think it's neat. Listen, it's cool, don't get me wrong, but like, were they hoping for a Jewish spin-off series? Like, the first Jewish Disney princess? Is that what they were going for? Genuine question, this is not a joke. I feel like this was just kind of dropped in here, but I guess we have learned about other cultures. I thought it was all adjacent Latin cultures. I thought that was the point. Is Judaism a Latin? I don't think that's a Latin culture. I'm very ignorant on this stuff, first of all, but like, I don't think I'm that dumb. Naomi isn't actually out. This is. They sure are good friends. Surprise, she's back. Seriously? Wow. She was gone for like a total of 3 episodes.
I just found out Ash and Esteban have teamed up with a sorceress and this weird magic bat.
I think that's Chitana. Hey, thanks for catching my scepter.
Never underestimate the power of the lasso.
I know that look. That's the look of very good friends and nothing more. This is still a Disney show.
What you doing here all alone?
Oh, you know, just looking at all the letters I never sent about how much I missed you.
It wasn't much of an adventure without you. I didn't realize how much I missed being part of a team.
Or maybe you just missed your friend. You know, the friend that you have that's a girl. What do they call those again? Hang on. Maruvian warrior. Balance the scales, I guess. Neither of these characters are going to be important, by the way. This show has a couple serious problems. First is the character bloat. If we stuck to really just focusing on the character arcs of the main 4, then we could cover them easily and have them all decently compelling. But we instead have half-baked stories that supplement character arcs for the side characters, and rushed character arcs for Elena that don't last long and don't really have any impact. Not just that, but we're now adding characters with their own character arcs that don't pack any impact for the villains, and then we're adding more characters on top of them to create some sense of, or at least okay. Yeah, but I can't help but feel like they could just be better if we had more focus on a smaller amount of characters with longer build-ups. The show started so strong and is just slowly dwindling down in quality.
Which is why the Grand Council has agreed to your exile on Soledad
No,
Island.
we want to stay here and help you defend Avalor.
Wow, funny enough, these two have a better character arc than most characters in the entire show. And frankly, that's really sad, because I still don't really care about them. The budget, guys. We have a whole episode where they do flashbacks to when everyone used to be kids, and of course Esteban is there because he moved in with them when his parents were lost at sea, and Elena remembers how well they used to get along, and how they were basically like siblings, tugging at Elena's heartstrings. And what is supposed to be our heartstrings, which would be a great way to prime Elena and us for a possible redemption for Esteban, and a change of heart for Elena about Esteban, so that she can forgive him, because Disney is great at setting
Like a part of the family, but just look at these memories. It's me, Princess Elena.
Who? There's no princess in Avalor. Elena doesn't even sound like a princess name. Now, Sophia, that's a princess name.
It also sounds like a better show. There's only 2 episodes left in the series, and instead of focusing on that whole, plot that they were developing, they do a hallucination what-if episode. What if Elena was never a princess and she could, see how her life would be and appreciate it? Which means underwater thing, and a big magic stuff happens, and now there's the Maruvian equivalent of legendary Pokemon released into the world. And the Lightning Warrior is proving to be very helpful. All the while, Elena and Ash fell into the big magic thing underwater, and now they're trapped together.
I'm in the spirit world?
The dark side of it, but yeah.
So they need to talk to this Maka in order to get back to the real world, and he's a party animal, so he doesn't want to. Tapu Koko over here starts causing chaos, and the supporting cast needs to figure that out. All the while...
I'm fine, Elenita.
Don't worry, he can't get more dead.
I was not a perfect ruler.
Like the time I prevented Shuriki from invading our allies.
Your father didn't consider that she would then turn her sights on Avalor.
Esteban tried to warn me. I didn't believe him, so he sided with Shuriki.
You've had like 5 Dia de los Muertos. to talk about this, and you're only telling her now. That still doesn't make what he did okay. He still sided with the enemy that took over your kingdom. How does this change anything?
Years ago, when I told my parents not to go, I had changed. She did not listen. But if I were king, I'd finally have the power I deserve.
You will forever be the villain who stole the crown.
But you should be a tragic villain, I'll give you that. But you should be a villain. Did you even really change all that much? I'm glad to know you didn't spend the budget on hookers and blow, because you're blowing it on this show. Ash is staying in the spirit world. Elena is going back to save the day. Callbacks to the previous episodes are riddled throughout this finale, and they manage to get some of those new bad guys out of the picture, and some of the good guys are in a picture. Oh no, Elena is about to be defeated. I guess now's a great time for Esteban to prove he's changed. Yep, there.
It's more powerful than anything I felt.
I'm upset that this was painfully obvious, and still not satisfying. But that is a very sweet and poignant thing there. Yeah, okay, I'll admit that. So the messages of needing to forgive the past in order to move on to the future is very well delivered in this finale, I'll admit. The message they've been building up this entire time is a great one, and at the very least, they did a good job on that. Together they teleport bad juju lady away and everything is fixed. I don't know what that winged girl or Maruvian that still isn't as good as Cedric. They loved withholding the whole truth until the very end because they thought it would make it more compelling and add more tension when it was really just a nuisance. Elena is queen now, and the real magic is that no one in Avalor actually ages, apparently, because she still looks the way she did when she was 15. Happy ending, I guess.
You came! How could we miss it? We queens have to stick together.
What happened to you guys? You look like you guys belong in Roblox.
Naomi, there's something I need to know right now. Will you be my chancellor?
Is that code for girlfriend? Oh, they'd be near each other all the time. Oh my goodness, she's smart. She's working around the system.
A true master wizard.
So, about that dance.
Issa.
Mateo, take a hint. She has a new chancellor now. I am disappointed. And I'm sorry for all the fans of Elena of Avalor. It felt like there was maybe 4 plans all happening at the same time. They couldn't decide on which one, so they just said, screw it, we'll do all of them. It was like a hodgepodge mess that wasted a lot of time. This could have easily been like 1.5 seasons, maybe 2. We could have caught out a whole season. I guess it didn't stumble and trip across the finish. What is better is getting across the finish line and not tripping. And that's better than never finishing the race whatsoever. If only Patrick Rothfuss would listen to that advice. If only George R.R. Martin would listen to that advice. Finish your stories. Finish your fucking stories. I am very happy it got a proper ending. I feel like it was just done wrong. I feel like there's quite a few different ways we could have done this, and all of them would have been better. If you loved this show, I'm sorry for bashing it so much. I, as a neutral third party, have to give my honor. It started really good. This show had so much potential, and it just devolved. And the weirdest thing is, it didn't even have like an Owl House situation where it was just cut partway through, unless it did, and I can't find information that says it was canceled partway through, because I don't think there's a lot of coverage around this stuff, because it wasn't like the massive pop culture hit that the Owl House was, which, you know, sometimes we get news of things that the masses are interested in, and a whole bunch of other stuff is going on for a bunch of things that just don't have as many eyeballs on it. That being a lot of things happening behind the scenes in Hollywood. A lot of the illegal stuff, because we just didn't know and didn't care until the big news broke out, and then we did. And now we care a lot. And overall, Elena of Avalor is good, except for some of the in-between bits. I loved the concept, too. I really liked it. I think a big part of what made Sophia the First more heartwarming than Elena was that Sophia's foundation was being part of a family that was once divorced and now is together, a mixed family. Elena's foundation is, she is the Latina princess, and we're going to have more Latina inspiration or Latin inspiration in our show, which is also good, don't get me wrong, but it doesn't have the same heart. With Sophia the First, her situation is something that can be experienced in any culture, all the while Elena's culture is not something that can be experienced by everyone. We're gonna be awesome, and we're just gonna show everyone how awesome this culture is, and our magical world that we made for it based off of that culture, and for some reason it just sort of fell apart. Coco was better. Coco was better. I'm gonna leave it at that. It needed a focus. Sophia had a focus. Elena lost its focus when Shiriki just vanished randomly. Why? Why did you take away my gilf? Why? She was hot. I'm just gonna be horny on Maine. Why'd you get rid of her? Ash ain't bad too, but come on, guys. Anyway, that's everything I have for this video. Thank you again to our sponsor, Fume, for sponsoring this video. Go check the link in the description below or scan the QR code. I hope you enjoyed this video. Stay beautiful and keep playing. Hey, wait. I know you.
Please, let me join your guild. I want to be a part of a team.
Some people out there like to claim that dolls are scary and creepy, and why are they looking at me? Why are they haunting me? As someone who likes dolls, I've never really felt this way, excluding some baby dolls. And in fact, there's one line of dolls that really leaned into the creepy cute thing that I always adored, and that line is Monster High. Not only did I love the brand, but I would even argue that Monster High basically changed the game when it came to unique characters and personalities, and leaned into the idea that being different and unique was good. So of course I loved them, and I wasn't alone. By 2013, only 3 years after its original release, Monster High had become something new and different, and it was working. So of course, other toy companies decided it was time for them to produce something for the creepy, cute, enjoying kiddos of the world. MGA, Mattel's major competitor, would come out with 2 doll lines in 2012 to compete with Monster High, Novistars and Bratzillas. Novistars were a line of dolls with huge eyes, no nose, and each of them were an alien with a specific power, such as Alielectric, who could light up. And I actually owned, I don't have her anymore, but I remember being really excited about getting her, and it being like a very hard choice for me to pick between Monster High dolls and Novistar dolls. Good job, MGA, on that. Their other line of dolls, Bratzillas, or Bratzillas House of Witches, were a spin-off of the Bratz doll line. These included some really cool designs. They took the basic Bratz face and body, but instead of them being fashionable teenagers, they were witches with different powers, and also had these really cool and like slightly off-putting eyes, but I do like them. Both Novistars and Bratzillas, as well as many other doll lines at this time, would follow Monster High's trend in having webisode series and an in-depth website with character profiles, sometimes even games, but Novistars and Bratzillas at least still had pretty unique vibes, with Novistars of course being space theme and Bratzillas being focused around witches, even though they both had their doll lines, which are now huge collector's items. But of course, that wasn't all. In 2012, another doll line would be released, one that absolutely used Monster High as its blueprint, but with a head-turning twist. And that line is Mystics. Mystics was created by the toy brand Playhut Inc. Playhut Inc. was founded in 1992 by Brian. That's great. The company's hit product would essentially be pop-up toys. Tents, ovens, basketball hoops, laundry baskets. If it exists, it can be made to pop up. Because of this, their website through the years would have a how to fold link on it, which I do find very funny. As someone who has to Google how to fold up her green screen every single time I use it, I strongly relate. The company wouldn't do much else until 2003, when Brian Zhang decided to create Playhut Entertainment. Following the growing popularity of anime in the United States, the company would acquire over 30 animated series from China, with the intent to broadcast it in the United States and create merchandise from those series. The company would refer to these as being Chinamation, and really hoped that they would be the next big thing in entertainment.
they weren't. Playhut's next step in branching out would come in 2005 with the release of 2 doll lines, Princess Prancers and Mysticats. Both are half-human, half-animal creations, with Mysticats essentially being cat girls and Princess Prancers being a fashion doll My Little Pony hybrid. I can find almost no information about Princess Prancers aside from a blog by Crystalline Toybox in their attempt to find out more about the brand. And I also very sadly learned that the exact same website that I once hosted photos of the Evergirl dolls from the New York Toy Fair that I couldn't get to work or see properly had also posted photos of the Princess Prancer line when they were at the Toy Fair, which are also now no longer accessible. Why is my life so hard? From the few photos that I can find of them, I think they're really weird. Like, I'm not one to judge, but if I were to say, like, find someone that had a house full of them, I would find that very off-putting. I can't lie. They look very interesting. Mysticats, on the other hand, would be somewhat successful as a toy line. Designed to be a competitor for Bratz, they actually had multiple releases and even produced a commercial.
In a world beyond this world, Mysticats reveal their true identity.
Big deal in my world of dolls. I would love to one day do a more in-depth look at the Mysticats line because I do love a cat girl, but we might even get to hear just a little bit more about them later in this video anyways. Foreshadowing. Playhut would then go back to focusing on their bread and butter of pop-up toys until the year 2012, when they would announce and release Mystics. So what is Mystics? Mystics is a doll line that was designed to follow the Monster Girl vibe of Monster High, but with a twist look, and the second, which was their monster look, and you could twist them around on the doll's body to change your character from human to monster, earning it the tagline, "The doll you can change the face of," which doesn't exactly roll off the tongue. As far as I know, the line of dolls have been credited as has lots of information online about previous projects that he has worked on, and I have to give a huge shout out to him because he worked at Polly Pocket during the rebrand from the 2000s that basically rocked my world. Here's a list of Polly toys that I either owned or played with that he had a hand in designing. The plane or groovy getaway, the limo that played music, the pop star sets with the cool hairpieces, the pet show, the beach stuff, Polly on a horse that was wearing heels, and the arcade Pollys, including specifically this popcorn bike, which for some reason, while I didn't like super love Bratz growing up, I was obsessed with baby Bratz. I thought that they were super cute. What I'm trying to say is Scott has had some great experience working with really big brands that I loved as a kid. But also, to be fair, those were all brands that had a lot of history and money going into them. So just keep that in mind. Scott would become the senior girls product designer at Playhut in August of 2012. Now, you might recall me mentioning that the Mystics line of dolls would be released in 2012, and more specifically in October of 2012, which means that Scott probably wasn't actually that involved in the initial designing or planning of the line, meaning that the first line was likely mostly designed by Sean Singer. Sean does have a bit less of an online presence as Scott. I was able to find a WordPress blog that belonged to Sean where he confirms that I designed and illustrated these dolls. They're available at Toys R Us right now and soon to be in Target, Walmart, and a special edition doll exclusively at Hot Topic. Now, Sean is not a toy designer. As far as I can tell, he doesn't describe himself as one, and most of his artistic work has been either paintings or looks like a combination of Monster High, Bratz, and Sean's aesthetic style. You might also notice that it's frankly a little unsettling. At some point, I'm assuming with the direction of Scott once he joined the team, the artwork would be softened and refined to be a little bit more consumer friendly. And with that, they would be ready for release. The dolls were launched at a Halloween party hosted by Kiss FM radio station, and attendees there would be able to take photos with life-size cutouts of the dolls, as well as hold the dolls in person, like Chris Harrison from The Bachelor is doing here. Harrison? I don't know. He did it. The first line of dolls, Mystic's Vampires, would consist of 4 dolls sold exclusively at Toys R Us for $19.99. They would also launch a website with some character profiles. These would act as the introduction to our 4 main characters. So first of all, we have Talon, the pink one. Her bio reads, is a beautiful and trendy girl that loves pink. She wears pink clothes and accessories and even has a pink car. The food she eats is only that special boyfriend. She knows all the hip people at school and can get anything that she wants. She is talkative, funny, and knows all the cool places to hang out. While Talon's outfit matches her character art pretty well, her wig styling obviously is not quite up to par, and by wig styling, I do actually mean a wig. Because of the head-turning design of the dolls, their hair couldn't be rooted like most dolls, so they instead wore a wig, which you could also then twist around to face the correct side. Her hair was originally styled in pigtails in box, but even her stock photos show it down because they just don't look very good. And speaking of stock photos, pretty early in my research, I noticed something about these dolls that was kind of driving me crazy. The eye colors of these dolls cannot stay consistent, and character art gives her vampire self blue eyes. And then even worse, if you look at the doll stock photos next to that, her vampire self has golden eyes and her human self has blue eyes. And I was thinking, why did her eye color change so many times? What is going on? Then, as I was looking at things and researching, I realized that Talon and Siva, another doll we'll talk about in a bit, have the same purple skin color. And whoever took the stock photos of these dolls managed to mix up the 2 of them. So their eye color is incorrect, which is sort of a wild mistake to make on your stock photos. Speaking of mix-ups, our next doll is Azra, the sporty one. Azra's character bio reads, loves being outdoors. She is competitive and driven and plays on the school's basketball, soccer, and tennis teams. Her favorite sport is snowboarding. So in the winter time, you'll find her enjoying the brisk air out on the slopes. While other girls are chasing boys and shopping with friends, she's busy beating the competition out on the field. Boys love being around her, but her adventurous spirit keeps her interested in other things. She's very direct and says what's on her mind, often gets her in trouble and can hurt others' feelings. But once a friend, you know you can always count on. Which, solid grammar. And now that I'm looking at things, I realize that her vampire form is supposed to be the blonde one, and her human self actually has more blue hair, so like, what is going on with this artwork and the dolls? One last thing is that if her whole character trait is like being the sporty one, maybe her wearing a like sporty vibe outfit would be a slay. I'm not trying to say you have to dress as your interests, but if we're gonna give them character tropes, why not like lean into that a little bit? Next, we have Siva, the royal one, and the second victim in our eye photo mix-up. Her bio reads, comes from a royal family of vampires from the old country. She wants to be a normal teenager, so she tries hard to hide her royal identity at school. She loves the color purple and has it all around her, from the clothes she wears to the food she eats. Tag your favorite purple food in the comments down below. She's very popular at school because others are naturally drawn to her, including the boys. She is sweet, caring, and fun, but slightly arrogant because ultimately royal blood still runs through her veins. Metallics must kind of like be her thing because her human look is gold and weird. And aside from having like the strangest outfits, she does actually match up with her character artwork pretty perfectly. So, slay Siva, aside from your stock photos also being incorrect. The rest of you's doing okay. And lastly, we have Kalani, the vegetarian, and my muse for this video's looks. Kalani's character bio reads, is a strict vegetarian that only eats green vegetables. She loves school and is extremely smart. Before high school, her parents, who are both professors, homeschooled her. She is nerdy, quiet, thoughtful, and feels most comfortable in a classroom or around books. Her shy personality and extreme intelligence scares off others at school, making it hard for her to socialize and make friends. Secretly, Kalani is jealous of all the popular girls and wants to be just like them, especially around boys. Her doll has gray eyes, her artwork has purple eyes. Just assume eyes aren't gonna matter for the rest of this video. Her human form is wearing a blonde wig with green streaks, which, like, of course, doesn't really match her original character artwork with dark green hair. It almost makes me wonder if there was some sort of like wig mix-up with Kalani and Azra. Like, the styles obviously aren't quite right in the colors, but a black bob would be a little bit closer to Kalani's dark green hair, and obviously the blonde would be closer to Azra's blonde. So don't know for sure what happened, but something did. In November of 2013, the brand actually posted updated artwork onto their Facebook page showing the correct hair and eye colors for the dolls. However, they never would update their website, and so it only contained outdated artwork of the characters, and they wouldn't update the box art till far later down the line. So in case you can't, it looks like this is a case of somebody who doesn't really know a lot about toy design, creating designs, and then not either having the time or deciding not to update the artwork or make changes to the dolls once they started producing them. Like, in an ideal world, they would try and make the dolls, discover the limitations with the prototypes, change the artwork to match that, and then go with what the brand could afford, considering this line probably had some budget limitations. I don't know what exactly happened on the journey of these dolls being created, but it does feel a little bit like amateur hour. The packaging for the dolls themselves would really heavily advertise the idea that the dolls were going from day to night looks, with their human looks being for day and their vampire looks being for night. They packaged the dolls with the vampire look and then included a sort of like flat Stanley version of the human form to display the second outfit. I understand that they probably wanted to show off the vampire look because that was the selling point. These dolls had an edgy look and a softer look. However, I do think the edgy look is maybe a little bit too edgy, and considering that a lot of the really popular vampire media at the time kind of leaned into the idea that becoming a vampire made you this like beautiful creature, I think they could have softened the appearance of the dolls just a little bit. Also, for some reason, none of these dolls have eyebrows which match their hair color. They almost always have like light brown or blonde eyebrows, which drives me insane. Like, why? Why? In November of 2012, the first piece of tie-in media for the toy line would be released. A music video. As many of you may know, a lot of toy lines released music videos around this time, Monster High being a prime example. Their Fright song from 2010 would also be used in commercials and other media for the dolls. And the music video features humans in costumes, animated segments, a dance routine, and character introductions. That would pretty much end up being the bread and butter structure for all future doll music videos, and Mystic definitely was following their lead. Fright Song would actually end up being a really catchy and fun song and a very smart marketing move for Monster High. It led the brand to build a really strong YouTube presence from the start, with Fright Song currently sitting at 101 million views. Like, I get that it's been more than 10 years, but that is not a small amount of views by any means. Mystic's vampire music video, as it's titled on YouTube, also features humans in costumes, animated segments, a dance routine, and character introductions. It's just, like, so much worse. The song featured, named Let's Go Mystics, is pretty genuinely awful. I can't find any writing or production credits on the music, so I think it was likely done by someone in-house at Playhut who maybe just like had access to GarageBand. It feels like somebody in charge just went, hey, they have a music video. It can't be that hard. And fun fact, it can. As someone who went to one day of film school, I can say with confidence that it is hard to produce a good video. And it's absolutely not an ideal situation to just like pull an employee from your company to tell them to do something that they've never done before if you want that thing to act as like a possible major marketing pull for your brand. If they don't have any experience, you're not gonna get a good product and it's not going to be effective. If anything, anything, it could be worse and make people not want to buy what you're selling. I'm not really here to try and do any sort of grand critique of a music video from 2012, but if I could have just offered like one piece of any of the humans in the video dress up as the characters. Instead, they had little animated segments featuring the characters, which I think is really smart. Unless you have a lot of budget available to you, it is going to be hard to make a life-size version of the doll costumes and make the humans in the video look like dolls. So it would have made more sense for them to like go to Goodwill, get some like generic vampire goth feeling clothing and have the humans in your video wearing that instead of trying to dress them up as the dolls and doing a really bad job of it. They end up just looking really bad, and I feel awful saying that, but like, so that's my advice. If you're out there listening, get a time machine. In February of 2013, Mystics would make its first appearance, I believe, at the New York Toy Fair. I wrote that, and then I realized now I found evidence they might have been there in 2012, but I don't know. I know for sure they were there in 2013. Only a few months after the release of the original run of Mystics dolls, they had 2 new doll lines and 2 lines of fashion packs to show to consumers. Another thing I want to quickly bring up before we get too far into the dolls is the Facebook page. While Mystics didn't have the best website, they did have a fairly active Facebook page, and they would post about the all press is good press concept, as well as just random photos of the dolls out and about, I guess taken with a phone. This feels like what I would do if they were like, run this Facebook page. I'd be like, look at the doll, it's in this city. She's out and about. So from October of 2012 until May of 2013, they were posting pretty regularly. And then they were completely silent until October when they post our beautiful new Mystics zombie dolls, now available at Toys R Us and Amazon.com.
We're going with the zombie trend in 2013, which is going to be huge. Kids just love zombies now.
The Mystics Zombies line transforms our cast of girls from the immortal to the undead. While we may never know the exact reason for their deaths, the packaging for the dolls states that last year 4 very beautiful undead girls showed up on the fashion scene, and nothing has ever been the same. Their names are Azra, Kalani, Talon, and Siva. They are so fresh and so dead. They've been slayed, Your Honor. The looks overall feel very steampunk inspired, with more dramatic eye colors, as well as the color of the outfits generally leaning into jewel tones, browns, and metallics. This line also did away with the second outfit for dolls, with each doll only coming with a second wig to help represent their human to monster change. Getting into the dolls themselves, Talon's skin color is now a pale look, as well as a brown to pink ombre wig, which also looks quite cute. Her outfit maintains some of her girly vibes from the first line, with her wearing an asymmetrical skirt and a puffy sleeve blouse. Azra is finally blonde! Woo! She now has light green skin and includes a blonde and icy blue wig, which would be great if her box art didn't have her in pink for some reason. Her eye makeup sadly also does not match the box art, which would have been a really cool concept for her to have this kind of dual look. That being said though, her shorts look awesome, and overall, it's a pretty good outfit. Siva has transformed into a pale green color, but maintains her love of gold metallic, with more gold metallic pants, as for a curly brown look, and this like split dye white and black look where I think it has black bangs and white the rest of their hair. I think that this was originally supposed to be an ombre, and that just didn't quite work out in production, which makes sense. Doing ombres with wigs is actually super hard. Like, it's not an easy thing to do well. Kalani is now also purple and comes with a black wig with white streaks and a green wig, as well as a pretty adorable outfit that includes a layered skirt, hat, and socks. I think that she's my favorite, and she's also right behind me, isn't she? These dolls, again, fall victim to the box art, doll photos, and dolls not quite all matching, which, again, seems like a big mistake seeing as they seemingly had so much time between when these were designed and shown off at the toy fair and when they were released. But I guess maybe they were already far enough along in production that they couldn't make changes to the dolls. Who's making these decisions, and why can't we change the artwork on the box? Like, why are we printing the artwork on the box first? Like, what's happening?
Great question, Past Mary. I have no clue why, because they did change the artwork. This is the artwork that they were showing at the toy fair. So, like, what gives?
The zombie theme also works a little bit less well, I would say, than the vampire theme, just because with vampires, the day-to-night thing kind of feels like it makes sense, like having a double life. And we already have so much media that centers around vampires, like living like humans, and then, oh, but they're also vampires. But for zombies, that doesn't feel like it quite works as well, because they're like, you know, actively decaying, and them having a human and zombie self doesn't again feel like it works as well when their skin color is like green or purple. It's like they already they don't look like a human, basically. It's just more like they have a softer side and then an edgier side. This is edgy. Overall, I just don't feel like it quite works as well. But if that line of dolls wasn't enough for you on one random day in October, don't worry. The company actually released everything at once. So 2 doll lines and 2 sets of outfit packs on the same day for some reason. We are going to follow the order that each pack consisted of a dress, shoes, and choker, as well as a short wig. Now, I want to note the short wigs because you're thinking about dolls that have faces on the backs of their heads, and the shorter their hair is, the more likely you're going to be able to see that second face, which is kind of weird. Overall, it's an okay fashion line. The second fashion line, however, I actually really like. These are the Punk Couture fashion packs, and I think they're great. They consist of a lot of different fabrics and patterns. Most of them have socks or tights, as well as shoes, and a bigger variety of wig styles, including this like ponytail wig, and even a like mohawk. And an accessory. So I think these ones are great. They also have cool belt details, and all of the fashion packs retailed for $12.99. I personally think you're gonna get better bang for your buck with the punk fashion packs, but I would also understand people preferring the aesthetics of the goth ones. The final part of this year's releases are the Mystics Grimm dolls. I think the idea or concept that they were going for was with the Grimm fairy tales having different animal characters, but I don't know if any of their stories reference an Aries goddess, serpent queen, royal raven, or fox princess. So I don't know if they were just trying to pick a word to mean like furries without it being furries. I'm not saying they're furries, but I don't know how to describe them, and I don't think they did either, to be fair. Weirdly enough, there was also a TV series at the time named Grimm, which aired from 2011 to 2017, that I think was like fairly successful. I don't remember it though, so if you watched Grimm, let me know. Regardless of the intention of the line, each of the dolls just had basically an animal theme, with the packaging stating, "For beautiful animalistic girls. They are so fresh and so wild." And in all of the footage from the toy fair that I can find, all of the people talking about the dolls essentially highlight that they're supposed to represent like the animal spirit.
And this captures
including the doll and a mask, so we don't get a second outfit or wig. With this line, we have Siva, who is the Raven Queen. So she's wearing a purple and black gown, necklace, and has a purple and black wig. So these sets only came with one wig, with the mask kind of acting as the replacement for the secondary outfit and wigs. It was really supposed to help emphasize that like transformation aspect for the character, with her having this like hidden identity and then, oh, you can see her face. Siva's mask also looks like it's pretty low quality, with it being constructed of just cardboard and feathers. And in fact, this wasn't the masks that they showed with her at the toy fair. Her monster face does include some sort of like feathery details, and her human form has a much simpler look with just a little like bird on her cheek. Very cute. Then we have Kalani, who is the Serpent Queen, who has a very snake-inspired look. This outfit does involve a lot of layers, which I think is fun, with mask, which wasn't what was shown at the toy fair. Her monster makeup includes a bit of a snake skin look on one side, and then her human side, again, has the more simple look with a little extra decoration. If you noticed that I didn't include Talon and Azra, it's because they were never actually produced. I didn't realize this at first, but I couldn't find any in-box photos of the two or any photos of people that owned them. And looking through the Mystics Facebook page as well, the Grimm line in general is hardly posted, which is impressive considering how much they're posting about all of the other doll lines. They would only ever post one photo of the entire group art for the line, as well as one photo of each of the dolls, with the photos of Talon and Azra including a coming soon comment. And despite the efforts of fans asking when in response to those photos, we would never see them. The Ares goddess and Fox princess would simply never be. In footage from the 2013 Toy Fair, employees with Play Hut would reference that the price point for all of the dolls except these ones were $19.99, but the Mystics Grimm dolls were going to be $29.99.
And rest of them right here is $19.99 to $29.99.
Which is a pretty hefty price jump considering they didn't come with a second outfit or wig. But it does sound like the two dolls that would be released ended up being $19.99 each. So what I think ended up happening is that for some reason, whatever they were doing to produce the masks was make the masks with paper, and maybe for some reason the masks for Talon and Azra just weren't looking good in their paper form, or they were just worried the dolls weren't going to sell very well, so they decided to cut their losses by only producing two of the dolls at a lower price point with the cheaper masks. That's just a guess though. Looking through some of the other photos from the designer Scott, it does look like this line maybe originally was supposed to be released with a second outfit that was more glitzy or glamorous, and this line of dolls was originally supposed to come out in spring of 2013. So obviously something happened that changed their plans. I personally think that this line ended up being the worst in the series.
In essence, this one actually has 3 different faces, styles that you can actually play with, because there's an everyday look, one with a mask, and then one with a painted face.
And the Grimm or animal spirit thing just doesn't quite have the same vibe to it as a vampire or zombie, which are quite, classically recognizable monsters.
For example, she's the snake spirit, and she's the snake girl. And then she's a hawk.
I think what they should have done instead was just go more in the direction of a werewolf. So maybe have a wolf character, fox character, and maybe even a cat character. Like, bring back Mysticats. With the company releasing so many dolls in such a short period of time, we wouldn't get anything new from Mystics for a while. However, Around the Dolls was host design contests. On November 30th, 2013, Mystics hosted the first in-person Mystics Fashion Design Party. The event was held at a local toy store in California and was intended for fans to come, meet the designers of the dolls, Sean and Scott, and create their own doll designs for a chance to win a custom doll outfit. This event did happen, and they even posted photos of it, and honestly, it just looks like a really fun and sweet time. I know as a kid, that was the exact sort of thing that I would have loved to do as someone who is really crafty, and genuinely, I think it was at that party, they would also announce an online contest running from November 30th to February 28th, 2014, where participants would be able to submit online entries for an outfit contest, and at the end of each month, a winner would be announced. And that winner would receive a custom-made outfit for their doll of their design, which again is a pretty fun concept. During this time period, they would start a series called Fashion Friday, where they would show both the concept art for an outfit and the doll wearing that outfit. I think this was a way to essentially show off either products that they were working on or ended up getting scrapped. There were a ton of these over the course of the 2 years that they were posting them, so I think they honestly had a lot of big plans for the Mystics line in terms of like different outfits and themes. Some of them would end up being really gothic, some of them would look kind of like Bratz creations, and some would have specific themes. Like there was this ghost one, which I'm sure that at some point someone had the idea to do a Mystics ghost doll line, as well as this mermaid one, and all sorts of different looks. On February 13th, the Facebook page would announce the premiere of the first Mystics webisode, which would be coming out on Valentine's Day. They call it a motion comic webisode, which doesn't really make it sound like amazing, and also note that the webisodes will be released on a monthly basis. Now, I talked about it earlier a little bit, but Monster High really did change the game when it came to media years. They released a webisode almost weekly, minus about a month gap in between for the holidays. Overall, they produced about like 175 webisode episodes, and I know that I personally really enjoyed them. They were really short, around 2 or 3 minutes long, but did a good job of giving you some character interaction or seeing the characters go on adventures in a way that I think would really work well for kids to be able to play. They could see the short episode and then use that as a jumping off point for their own adventures with the dolls. Interestingly enough, Mystics would not post about the release of the first episode on their own Facebook page. So the 3-minute long episode starts with a 30-second introduction, which features a new song introducing the characters. This is one of the few times in my life where I can look at a fully produced work for a toy company and go, oh, I could make that. And the scenes with the dolls dancing to non-vampires called Day Dwellers in this universe, or DDs.
In hopes that DDs,
which doesn't have any other meaning in any other context. They explained that vampires are people who transform in the night into
a more intense version of ourselves,
and reiterate multiple times that they can transform into bats. They don't mention the whole blood thing at all. That was pretty much the entire first episode, but we do get a credits sequence where we can see that the art, animation, editing, and sound editing was done by Sean, which in some ways, it's simple and it's not the worst. Some other things aren't the best, we won't judge. The writing, on the other hand, is partly credited to Scott, which is not very good. It's not great writing. The way that different adults write teenagers can just be very hit or miss. Mystics motion comic episode 2 would be released 2 months later on May 16th. This episode focuses on Siva and her relationship with her having royal blood and being from a royal vampire family. Siva does not really want to be a leader or a ruler, but is often thrown into that. And in this episode, one of her friends, Talon, signs her up to be the student body president, even though Siva does not want to be. And because of that, Siva now has to debate her friend Kalani and a guy that she's had a crush on her entire life. That's kind of the entire episode. Talon doesn't seem like a great friend, maybe. And those would be the only 2 episodes ever uploaded to the YouTube channel, which also, like, weirdly enough, is a different channel than the YouTube channel they used to host the music video. My social media control brain is like, no! August of 2014 would bring us the final dolls in the Mystics toy brand, which are also the best ones, and the reason why I wanted to learn more about this doll brand in the first place. They are the Mystics Rococo zombies. Rococo! Yeehaw! Their posts on Facebook introducing the line say, Mystics Rococo Zombies. You know the vampires, you've seen the zombies. Now Azra and Talon are coming to you in the highest Rococo fashion. These beauties are full of fun fashion features. With a turn of her head, she goes from a sweet teenage beauty to a ravishing Rococo white face makeup, sweetheart lips, and zombie shining eyes. Pull her braid and her hair goes from long flowing curls to a beautiful updo. Decorate her hair with Rococo-style rolls and flowers. And that's not all. Each Rococo zombie skirt can be transformed into a cape. Mystics Rococo Zombies are coming soon to a Toys R Us near you. Possibly to make up for their absence from the Grimm line, Azra and Talon are the only two dolls that were created for this line. And while these dolls only technically have one outfit and wig, I would say that it feels like a massive upgrade from the last line. First of all, the packaging is beautiful. It's so well done. They really clearly show you how the head-turning concept is supposed to work and also advertises different selling points, like the doll's hair can be pulled into an updo by pulling on a braid, which I'm not like fully positive how that was supposed to work, and also that her overskirt could be used as a cape, which isn't exactly a multiple outfit option, but at least with the hair pieces and some different customization options, as well as the faces looking so distinctly different, I think this line makes for some better play options. These are also the first Mystics are with Monster High dolls articulation. Now, I have to be honest, I do have a very strong personal bias towards these dolls. Not only are they wearing cute, fluffy, pastel-colored clothing, which I just enjoy in general, but the Rococo theming also just happens to hit hard for me as someone who grew up being a very big fan of Lolita fashion, which is somewhat inspired by the Rococo era, as well as one of my favorite books and movies is Kamikaze Girls, which just has some like great sections about Rococo and its relationship with Lolita fashion. Highly recommend you read that or watch the movie, especially if you love to see a strong relationship between two women with very different lives and aesthetics. I love them. I happened to come across a photo of these dolls by chance like a year ago, and I've been searching for a Talon doll ever since, and I have not had any luck. I know realistically me making a video about it isn't gonna help my odds of actually finding her one day, but you know, sometimes we gotta do what we gotta do. Despite my own personal love for this line, it wouldn't be enough to keep the brand afloat. The dolls would technically have another release, but it was a budget release of the original Vampire doll line, where the dolls would only, I think, include one outfit. I don't even know if they had a second wig, but I will say they're finally using the correct character artwork on the doll packaging. Thank God. With that, the Facebook page would consistently be posting photos of the dolls, trying to push them onto people until February of 2015 when it would go silent. So while the doll line never picked up a ton of traction here in the United States, it is possible that they had a bigger following in Russia. Few things in life are stranger than realizing that something you care a lot about or perhaps consider to be like very American are also very popular in Russia. Discovering hundreds of videos about the Nancy Drew game series in Russian absolutely rewired my brain. But back to Mystics. While I hadn't been able to find any advertising for the doll line in English, I did find one commercial for it in Russian. And to be fair, it's a solid ad. Like, the song they use in it is much better than anything produced for the US line, and they make the head-turning concept very apparent. The line of dolls that were advertised in this video were the final budget of these dolls to a Russian company. I've even found a lot of Russian doll YouTubers making videos about them, as well as mentioning a contest, and they link to what I think is like the Russian equivalent to Facebook, which had posts as late as 2019. Another interesting layer on top of that is that the Facebook page for Mystics in English stopped posting in February of 2015, and the Russian page was created in February of 2015. So in my mind, I'm like, they just handed it off. They were like, there you go, Russia. Overall, the Mystics line has been mostly forgotten in the age of the Monster High reboot and really more high-quality fashion doll line releases than ever. And that's not exactly surprising considering how heavily inspired it was by other doll brands, especially Monster High, with it feeling really like it leaned into knockoff territory a lot of the time. In fact, the original artwork for this doll line, which they did post on their Facebook page as well, was Laura's shoes, which they're not beating the Monster High ripoff allegations. And speaking of Talon and these dolls in general, what was the point of having them be characters if the appearance of them changes significantly with each doll line? Like, eye and hair color isn't consistent, and then we really have no idea why they changed from vampire to zombie or grim. And I'm not trying to say we need like a whole novel, but a little more information to help develop the line would not have been a bad thing.
Okay, crazy thing I discovered is apparently that is exactly what the story of Webisode 3 was going to be. So, I was onto something.
The website, of course, also missed out on a huge opportunity to develop this lore by never updating. And thinking again about our characters, an interesting little tidbit for all of you is our main 4 characters' names aren't really original to this doll line. They're the same names as the main 4 characters from the Mysticats doll line, which also, of course, heavily inspired the name Mystics. I'm not saying the company had to be totally unique, but I am gonna say, what was the point? The quality control for this line and the media produced for it not really being up to par with other doll lines at the time. And I'm not trying to say they had to be better, but you have to think about the fact that they're trying to compete with so many other toys. You gotta kind of try. Of course, it is really easy to point the finger at budget and assume that's where all of the issues came from, which I do believe is probably a major factor in this, but I think that this also highlights just how hard it can be to make a good doll. You can't just take any artist and go design a toy and expect them to come up with a good product. So much work, research, and effort goes into designing dolls, following fashion trends, knowing how to communicate what it is that you want with factories, changing designs to follow budget limitations, responding to the audience of your dolls, and figuring out what it is that they want. Also, knowing legally not to copy artwork from pre-existing brands that can and will sue you. And of course, I am being hard on the brand because I saw Monster High and what they did, and that kind of set the standard. So it's easy to go, wow, they're trying to be Monster High, but with no budget. But interestingly enough, if the timing on things had just been a little bit different, Mystics might have actually been able to live on. In 2016, Monster High would have their final reboot. This redesign, often referred to as Gen 3 or Generation 3, changed the dolls to try and make them appeal more to young children. The dolls in these lines had more childish, softer faces and moved away from the more detailed and alternative fashions of past lines. And they're strongly disliked by most of the Monster High community, myself included. But if you think about it, if Mystics had been able to hold on until then and maintain the quality set by the Rococo doll line, I think they actually could have had a chance of gaining some of that audience that was lost by Monster High when they made the looks more childish. And they could have gone to Mystics instead, which was maintaining a bit more of that edgy feel. Alas, we'll never know. The toy company Playhut in general wasn't doing too hot. In 2018, the company filed for bankruptcy along with Toys R Us, who obviously was struggling quite a bit at the time. Curiously enough, the CEO of Playhut would come a bit under fire for requesting a salary of $459,000 as well as other compensation while his company was going bankrupt. So Brian kind of sucks is all I'm saying. I don't know. Let me know in the comments down below which Mystics doll you would want to be if you were transformed into one. I would be Kalani. I would be the nerd. I've heard that the best way to support my channel is to watch 2 of my videos in a row, so feel free to check out another one of my videos. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to give it a like, subscribe if you'd like to see more, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye!
Today I'm reacting to terrifying tales of cosplay, all submitted by users over on the Spacecraft Discord. This year I actually decided to animate the horror stories for the main video, but because that took an entire month, it meant I could only do 6 of them. So this is this year's non-animated horror stories. A happy spooky season. This first story comes from Anonymous. Like many cosplay horror stories, this one takes place at my very first convention. I was dressed up in a black bodysuit, on top of which desperately clung a white, hot-glued top that I had constructed the week before. Nevertheless, I was real ecstatic to be dressed up in what I considered, at the time, my first real cosplay. I was Katie A. Ari, at the time, recent internet viral music video. The pièce de résistance resting on my hips was Ari's crystal tails. Naturally, I decided to enter my very first cosplay contest. I would only have 30 seconds to be on stage without audio, and we had to wait an hour before the contest started. In hindsight, this is pretty standard. At the time, though, I was pretty bummed about it, as I wanted to attend a random dance panel during the same time. For anybody that doesn't know, a random dance panel or random dance play is a panel where a group of people will get together and they will just play literally random music, usually from K-pop, and anybody at the panel that knows the dance can run up to the front and start dancing. And nobody expects you to be really good at the dance. Nobody expects you to know the entire thing. So anyway, nevertheless, I stuck it out and started figuring out my poses for the stage. Just as quickly as they came, my nerves washed away as I heard KDA's Pop Stars blasting at full volume from the next room. After encouragement from others, I jumped out of my seat and ran into the other room. It was the random dance panel that I wanted to go to. I hopped in right during the chorus, the only part I knew. I am not a dancer, and this was the first dance I'd an embarrassment. After this, the cosplay contest didn't seem so scary. So when my name was called, I was still full of adrenaline from earlier. I ran on the stage, and in surprise to myself, and probably also the audience, I started belting off a line from Pop Stars. Ain't nobody bringing us down, 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 down. Parentheses, I am not a singer. And then I heard a loud thud. I turned around to see my tail had fallen off my belt and onto the floor. I stared at it for a split second in utter shock, and then I quickly picked it up and ran off stage as the heat started rising in my cheeks. In the end, I didn't win anything, but I was happy to have at least put myself out there and participated. Side note, I am cringe, but I am free! And I was glad it was finally over, or so I thought. 2 of the girls from the dance panel had come to tell me what I had done was very inappropriate. Confused, I started apologizing, but was cut off by the second girl. This is when the dread started settling in, as I realized that the panel had not been a random dance play. It was, in fact, a performance. Amongst my horror, I began to profusely apologize and tried explaining the situation. One of the girls was understandably pissed off. Later on, an older woman, I assume it was one of the girls' moms, stopped me in the dealer's room to berate me. And no matter how much I apologized, this lady kept going off. I had tears in my eyes and I had to walk away. I tried to enjoy the rest of the con after that, but I was genuinely horrified the entire day. And this was the story of my first con. Abridged version, no matter how long this may be. If this makes the video, I do just want to say I'm still sorry to those girls. I'm sure they are doing great things these days. I hope someone can not only learn from my mistakes, but also in regards to my first convention or cosplay contest, it might be cringe, but that's okay. Oh, it sounds like you were excited about your first con, and you made a mistake, and you did do something inappropriate, but it wasn't your intention to mess up their performance. This story comes from Anonymous. I'm going to start off by saying that I've been to well-done college conventions. However, when a college con has been going on for 10 years and there's some going on Saturday, since I wanted to compete in the cosplay contest in their performance category, I was doing Nikki Sheena from N-Stars in his USA cosplay. I only found out about this con through word of mouth, since their only social media was through Facebook and their own personal website. Although sign-ups for the cosplay contests were out months in advance, they did not sell tickets until the Tuesday before the con. They also did not announce guests until the same week, and only informed artists that would be in the artist alley that they made it in 2 weeks beforehand. The schedule was also only available on a Google Sheets document that anyone could go in and edit. When I got to the con, there were no signs at all about parking or what buildings the con was being held in, and I only found my way around thanks to a friend who attends that college. The food choices there were for students and faculty only. They had also split the artist alley into 3 separate rooms. Gotta work with the space given. However, they only had one singular small sign to state that there were 3 different artist alleys. I had planned on going badges, and the person that was running the panel never showed. We found out through the spreadsheet that the time slots for events and the description of the events had 2 different names put down for who was running the idol showcase. I was the one that ended up telling the staff, and I only told them 45 minutes after it was supposed to start, and the panel was only for an hour. Finally, the costume contest. Oh boy, where do I start? Because they were using the room for other panels, I had 0 time to practice my skit on the stage. So only then did I get to know the dimensions of the stage and the space, their audio, because it was 5 seconds over the allowed time limit, but they did not inform them of this until the morning of the competition. Because of that, the performer had to send in another audio that was chopped down, and because of that, they had to re-choreograph the entire thing. Once we got to the show, we were not told our order or anything until 5 minutes before the show. They also only had a lecture room to work with, since their main stage was getting work done. There was no MC, however, at least one judge was a professional cosplayer. During the awards, the winners got a paper saying they won, and either got the choice of getting a trinket or a bag of candy. This is not meant to diminish college conventions. I want more college conventions to happen. However, if a con has been running for over 10 years and is still making rookie mistakes, that's when I expect change. Do better, please. Oh, what's interesting, and I don't think a whole lot of people know this, is MomoCon started as a college convention. It started at Georgia Tech. I believe it was run by like the Anime Club, and it grew into this amazing staple anime convention, well, anime, comic, and gaming convention in Atlanta. And it's one of my favorites, and it has its roots as a college con. But you know, if you are a college con and you run it well enough, you should be looking at MomoCon to see, like, that's what you can grow to. You can be a big, giant money-making convention, even if you just start as a college convention, if you play your cards right. This next story isn't a horror at all. It's about my endless quest to become a industry experts in everything from illustration and design to film and productivity. And I recently learned how to knit. I still don't know anything besides get started today. This next story comes from insert name. That's literally their name. Okay, I have to come in and paraphrase the setup to this story because the front half had so many typos that I wasn't able to understand it or read it coherently. I remembered that I pulled my friend's big off. I don't. What the f does this mean? But all you need to know is that this person and a friend were locked outside their hotel room and were waiting for another friend to bring them the room key. They were also being kind of loud and rowdy in the hallway, and then some stranger opens the door across the hall. It was a man in his 20s, shirtless. He stared at us for a bit, which went back inside his hotel room. The same door opened up again, but now it was a different man. We again didn't think anything of it and went back to messing around while our friend was trying to get in contact with their dad. The door opened a third time, and it was the first man again, and he said with a dead serious tone, "Wanna come in and fuck?" Oh, we were literally standing there speechless. I made the dumb mistake of saying, "I'm a X-year-old. Looking back, I should have just said I was a minor, but I was panicking. He looked at me and went, "Okay," as if it wasn't an issue. And then he turned to start taking his pants off, and we didn't really know what to do. My friend shouted some really bad things at him, and eventually the door shut and we ran away. We told my guardian, and they told the hotel staff, and we didn't see the people again for that day or the next, but it was still quite scary. Ooh, I don't know what to say about that one, but that's pretty horrifying. This story comes from Edgar Vallen's painting. I was at a con and I was cosplaying from Bendy and Alice from Bendy and the Ink Machine. I had made my Alice cosplay, and to go with it, I had made an axe from the game that the character Sammy Lawrence had, because it would have been easier to... And my axe is gone. I start to panic, because I worked a whole month on it. Not to mention one of the staff broke it by accident when they checked my stuff at the entrance, and I had to run to go buy super glue. We asked some people around, because I genuinely start to panic and feel like crying, but no luck. We asked the staff too, and they didn't know either, and I ended up never finding it. My face paint also ended up being a mess due to having to run around the convention to look for my axe. Oh. This next story comes from Araziel. My fiance and I met through cosplay. We were at a small local convention with me cosplaying Dobby from My Hero Academia and him cosplaying one of the characters from Heaven's Official Blessing. I'm probably gonna say this wrong.
Xie Liang.
Very odd combo, I know, but because of that, we wanted to cosplay Dobby and Hawks together for our first convention together. I had already competed a little bit and had competed in past craftsmanship contests outside of cosplay, so I had an idea of competitive quality. I was living in my college dorm at the time, and we had gotten passes for a convention about 2 hours away from us. I'm used to driving far, so this doesn't bother me. With my unfortunate luck, all my finals were the same week. Because of this, if I wasn't in class, I was either working on the cosplays or studying. After 4 all-nighters back to back, we finally made it to the convention for the competition. We were tired, but really excited because a cosplayer that had inspired us to start cosplaying was the main judge. Arcos? Not to mention, Yaya Han was the MC. We finally got there and are putting on my fiance's 70% hot glue wings when we realized that my wig was left 2 hours away back in the dorm. On top of that, his wings broke in the prejudging line and I had to sew and duct tape them together in line. And I forgot our build books that almost made us late because they were printing. I had a mental breakdown right there in line, especially because my fiance didn't know why I put so much pressure on this competition. There was a ring in my pocket that I planned to propose on stage. Oh. I had already coordinated with the con to make sure it was okay the day before. It was too late to turn back, so we sucked it up and went through judging. Although we stood no chance of winning or placing, Yaya still was part of the proposal. AKR still talked to us personally and gave us personal tips, and my fiance still said yes. Word of advice, don't con crunch and make lists. Well, that's still a cute story. You know, it probably wasn't fun to have a mental breakdown in the moment, but now you have a really funny proposal story to tell people for the rest of your life. This next story comes from It's Hack see. They say, trigger warning, it's gross. I took a cosplay hiatus during the pandemic, and in 2022, I was finally depressed enough to know I needed to express my art. So I started building a cosplay. Because I was a grown-up in my 30s now, I wanted to do something a little more revealing and chose Bidou from Genshin Impact. Because she's cool and hot and right up my alley. I started crafting this cosplay to debut it at a con that would take place a week after